Friends, hello. This is Carter, and welcome to this episode of Making It Up, the podcast where two writers sit down and have a very unscripted, casual conversation about the craft of writing, about the publishing journey, all that good stuff. Before I get to today's guest, I do want to mention so we've totally overhauled our website at unboundwriter.com, where I do one on one coaching, and we also offer seminars and writing retreats. So I want you to go check out that website because it just looks cool. They did a really nice job with it. I'm excited about it. But a couple things I want you to note on there. We are going to be offering a new online seminar. The title is called The Visible Writer, and I'm going to be teaching about all the things that you need to be doing as a writer, aside from the act of writing, how you need to show up, how you need to have presence, and that might mean doing book clubs or doing interviews or all the things that you should be doing, how to show up online, how to have your visibility on display. In this world of AI, having some kind of authentic presence is very important if you are a writer. So check that out. That's going to be on May 30th. And we also have some information up about next year's Unbound Writer Retreat in Paris. Yes, Paris, France, not Paris, Texas. That I'm going to be doing with Alex Finlay and Clemence Michelon. So check out that. We're still kind of in the interest form phase. As of this recording, by the time this episode is out, we might have some more details on there, but you can at the very least join an interest form for our Unbound Writer Paris retreat in the spring of 2027. All right, let's get to it. I had a great guest today. Oh, did I have fun talking to my friend Marlee Bush. So Marlee, um, Marlee and I are both with Poison Pen Press, which is an imprint of Source Books. And so Marlee and I, along with some other writers, went to an event last year to support Darcy Coates, who's also with Poison Pen, on her North American tour. So we all did kind of a joint event at Books A Million, and that's where I got to know Marlee. Marlee at the time had her second book out, and it's a tremendous novel called Whispers of Dead Girls, which came out mid-ish 2025. Great book. I read it. I blurbed it. She's a fantastic writer. It's nice and dark, just the way that I like them. Creepy, haunting, atmospheric, wonderful tone. Highly recommend that you check it out. After this event, I'm like, hey, you should be on the podcast because I think we'd have a lot to talk about. And we did. We had a lot to talk about. We talked a lot about kind of just her journey. We talked a lot about rejection. She has a great line in there where she kind of says, I thrive on rejection. And we talked about all these things that plague writers, the insecurities, the finding time. She's got three little kids, the the need for feedback, which is critical in order to get your book to the best possible shape it can be in, and to treat yourself like a writer, which is a very hard thing to do when we tend to be full of self-doubt and self-loathing most of the time. So it was great. She's just a wonderful person. So I could have talked to her a lot longer. We had a great time, and then we made up a nice little dark story together, as we tend to do. You're going to love this one, folks. I really had a fantastic conversation with my friend. This is my conversation with Marlee Bush. So we don't really know each other, but we got to know each other a little bit at we're Atlanta, right? Books a Million or
Yep.
somewhere outside of Atlanta.
Yep. Fright Fest for Darcy Coates book tour.
Yeah, so Darcy was in town from Australia. It's funny, like I've read your book and then I read Darcy's. Have you read her?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's
Yeah.
fucked up. Like
Yeah.
it was my first. I forget which one. Maybe it was the one she was promoting, but I read it. I'm like, yeah, I know she leans horror, and I'm like, holy Jesus, it's
Was it the Cult Island one? Is that the one you read?
yes, yeah,
Yeah, it was awesome.
it was
Yeah,
awesome, and it was
it was crazy.
brutal.
Yeah.
And it's so funny because, we're there with Darcy and she's very demure,
Yeah.
borderline shy, I would probably say, very grateful for the people who are showing up and just very sweet. And it's weird because I think we get those questions like, what's going on in your mind? And I always dismiss that because I'm just like, everyone's got an imagination. But that I'm like, what happened to Darcy?
That's so funny. Yeah, no, it's so true. It's like you just meet her and she's just the kindest,
Yeah.
loveliest human. And then you read and you're like, whoa.
That was a great event, and it was nice. So this was an event set up by Poison Pen Press, all of our mutual, publisher, and at a Books a Million in suburban Atlanta. And Darcy was certainly the main name there, but a lot of people
Mhm.
showed up, and I like those things because it just affirms like, oh, people still read books. That's cool.
Yeah. I know. I know. I still don't know how I was invited to that event, but I had the
Now, why do
best
you
time.
say that?
Well,
Stop
you
being a
put me on
writer
the
with your
spot
self
there.
doubt.
Yeah, I know. I guess that's what it is. No, it was really fun. I had a good time.
Do you like? But let's explore that for a second. Like, do you feel like I Whispers of Dead Girls is your second title, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Second maybe published. Who knows how many books you have that didn't get
That
published. If you're like
that
me,
died in
it's
the trenches. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Um, but do you feel like, oh, I'm still slugging away and I'm not worthy of being published? And because I for years and years and years and years had those thoughts. Still kind of do. It's getting better.
No, well, okay. I really don't feel that way. I'm like, I was talking to my aunt the other day and I was like, listen, I don't even read the Goodreads reviews. I used
Oh,
to, like with my
Goodreads is a
first book.
cesspool.
Yeah, I don't read any of it because I'm like, I'm confident enough that I feel like I do a decent job. Like you'll get a decent read.
Yeah.
I'm not like super confident about it, but it's decent.
Yeah. I mean, early on, I think we see it's funny because before you're published, all you're hearing about and all you're actually experiencing is just the near futility of actually getting published, which is, the statistics are overwhelmingly against any writer about that happening. And I'm talking genre fiction, kind of specifically being published by, a mid to larger size traditional publisher. And then you get published and it's this amazing thing. And then you have to kind of almost reset something in the writer's mind has to say, yeah, but I don't have 2,000 reviews. Yeah, but this. And that's a hard thing to dig out of, I find. I think there's always that yeah, but going on. And, my 11th novel is coming out and I can always I can always find something and it can be poisonous if you're not careful, I think.
Well, I think if your bookshelf looks like yours behind you, then you definitely deserve to be here. Like I
Those
was
aren't
getting
all
ready for
mine.
this and I was like, I'm like in my room. And I was
Yeah.
like, but all the fancy authors have really nice bookshelves behind them.
Well, it's all for
No,
the
I
recording of the podcast, of course.
yeah. No, I totally agree. I think for me, it's like it's not necessarily this thing of like, oh, you have to have this many reviews or you have to list. I really truly don't care about any of that. I love to write, but it feels like going to the event. I'm just a mom and I've got 3 kids and my day to day is 100% about them. So
Yeah.
anytime I get to do something like that, it feels very surreal. Not that I
Yeah.
don't deserve to be there, but I just feel like a fish out of water a little bit. Like this isn't.
Yeah, you haven't shifted your identity yet. And that's something I talk about with aspiring, not, and you're not obviously an aspiring writer, but when I'm working with students through my coaching program, it's this identity shift, which, I think almost needs to take place before you're published because you never identify as like, this is who I am. Like you said, you're foremost a mom, which is totally understandable and probably the right way to frame it. But is there space in there to say, yeah, but I'm a professional author, which
Yeah.
is I mean, it took me years to be able to say something like that because you still feel like a fraud somehow. And I don't know why that is. I think for me it was because for many, many, many years I was not, I couldn't support myself or my circle with the income I was making with writing. And so, yeah, even though I had gone through all these hurdles and had been professionally published, I still feel weird saying I was a writer, or not. I still felt like I was saying something bigger than I was. And I think that's something that's important to get past. But it's an incredibly hard thing to do.
Yeah, and I think as a society, we've attached meaning to that maybe is not there, like what it means to be a professional writer. Because I know, like, if I run into some old friends from like high school, they'll be like, "Oh, like you have books." I'm like, "Trust me, it sounds a lot fancier than it is." Like it's
Yeah,
just we've
yeah.
attached so much meaning to it that's I feel like not even very realistic for most people who write.
But I think the flip side of that is, are they attaching the appropriate amount of meaning to it, and we're just immediately diminishing? You
That's
know, because
another way to look at it. Yeah.
I think that's what happens a lot of times because yeah, so for example, the layperson, this is in my experience, who would say, and it would you maybe a relative is like, oh, so you just do this full time now? And you're like, what are you high? Like, do you know how little it pays and this and that,
Yeah.
until you have maybe a big breakout book. But it's like, why can't you just accept it? Like, yeah, no, I'm on the path. I'm not doing it yet, but
Mhm.
I've gotten to a place that 99% of writers don't get to, and I'm very grateful for that. But there's more there's more road to go. But I don't know. It's funny. I think the psychology of writers is fascinating to me.
Yeah.
So
We're all very different. Like
we are.
we're
So how
different.
did you, and I remember we were talking about you because your kids are fairly young, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Because I kind of.
5, 3, and 18 months.
Oh yeah. So you're in the thick of it. You're you're knee deep in the muck
Yeah.
for years to come. But we figure out how to do it. But where did the writing come from? Because it probably started before you had any kids, right?
Yeah, actually, have always wanted to write. I think every writer I hear, like mostly every writer says that. Like you just have a like a calling for it or whatever. But I wrote my first book in 2017 by hand when I was working in a call center. This was before I had any kids. So, yeah. But
Wait, so
suddenly I
we got to back up there. Okay, this is actually something that happens a lot on this show. And someone's like, "Yeah, I wrote my first book, whatever," and then I'm like, "No, no, no, that's because it's a big deal, and it's an even bigger deal when you're writing it by hand. So you're working in a call center, which I imagine maybe doesn't feel like your life's calling, and you have what? Like, was there a thunderbolt? Was there what happened?
No, okay, I had to be at the call center at 5 a.m. I had to leave my house at like 3:30 in the morning, and the calls would come in. There would be such big breaks in between calls that I would just kind of be bored. So I just brought a notebook and I would just write in between calls. I mean, I would have sometimes 20 minutes in between calls.
Yeah.
So like in between getting cussed out for not waiving a credit card fee, I'm just trying to write.
Wow. And you are, yeah, and you have, and it's almost the logistics of, you obviously have to handwrite because you can't just have your laptop next to your
No.
call center computer. Um, but were you, because it's funny, you're the only person I've ever met, actually, other person who started writing a novel out of boredom. And that's how my writing career began. But I had zero background, training, classes, schooling, what desire. When you started just having this notebook, was it like, I write short stories all the time, so maybe I'll do something longer, or just like, I'm bored and I'm just going to exercise my imagination because I can't do it in my job?
No, like I said, I always wanted to be a writer. So in my mind, I'm like, okay, one day I'm gonna write a book. And then
Mhm.
I just had the time, so I was like, might as well try,
Well,
give it a
that's
shot.
and so did that become your first published novel?
What a good question. Of course not.
Yeah.
Of course not. Yeah.
I set you up on that one because
Yeah.
that's the other, the layperson's perspective is like you write a book and you become famous and it's like, no. So
Nope.
you write this book by hand and then I assume then you put it all on the computer, which is probably another massive task. Or oh
Yeah. 10
no.
out of 10. Do not recommend writing by hand first. I had to, yeah, put it all on the computer. It wasn't fun.
But
It
that
wasn't
gives you
fun.
the opportunity, I assume, to that's your first pass is like I'm editing as I'm transcribing in a way.
Yeah, and maybe that was helpful because until you write a book, you don't know if you can write a book. And so maybe that was helpful having that to
Right.
be able to make that first pass on it like
Right.
that, but I don't know. I
But the
kind of
beautiful
blacked out.
the beautiful thing is no one can ever accuse you of having AI write your book because you're like, I can just show you my my handwritten pages.
Yep.
Um, so you're right. So now you have a completed, document in Word or whatever. And do you know what to do? Do you know like, oh, I need to query agents. What's a query letter? Because I didn't know any of that stuff. So I just had
No.
to be Googling furiously to figure out how do books work.
Same. And you said that you didn't even like want to write. Is that what you just said? Like you were just kind
Yeah,
of got bored?
it was never in my sphere of desire. Like I was a business major. I was in real estate consulting. And I just started one day because I was taking a class that I was so bored in, and there was no smartphones. This is 2003, that I posed myself a murder mystery riddle. I wrote it down and I couldn't figure out the answer. And then when I got home, I just kept writing. And then you have that moment, like I think to your point earlier, is like, is this what I'm supposed to do? Is this the universe saying, pay attention to this because nothing like this has ever happened to you before? Maybe you should pursue this a little bit more. So I was completely green and didn't know what I was doing.
That's really interesting. And then yeah, yeah, same. Like same for me. Like I wanted to be a writer, but sorry, just coming back to this. I feel like you do a lot of things that I think are strange. So like remember when we were talking in Georgia, didn't you say that you don't plot your thrillers at all? Like you don't even know how it's going to end. Didn't you say that?
Correct. Yeah.
Oh my gosh,
And I
you're
don't think
so
that's strange. I think
interesting.
that's pretty common. That's just, again, that's how my brain
Is
works.
it?
Like
But
I
oh
can't.
wow, that's crazy. And then you didn't even know you wanted to write until you wrote your first book. That's also very interesting to me.
But I'm
So,
also fascinated by people who just can start working on a plot and then they just see the pieces fall into place. And I'm like, how do you know? Like, I have to be so deep into the story for things to kind of unfold in front of me. Yeah, literally. So it's funny. Literally today, my next draft is due. My next book is due in August, and I'm at the 70,000 word mark. So I know I've got say 15,000 words left. Roughly. And just today, this morning, I'm like, oh, maybe this is how it all ends. And I hadn't ever thought about it in a concrete terms until 70,000 words. But for me, my brain needs those 70,000 words in place in order to, because hopefully it's your subconscious just working towards
yeah.
the inevitable. But people who outline can do that in a much more pithy and fast fashion. And I don't understand how people do that.
No, but honestly, I feel like maybe you're getting it right because even when I outline, it's not like stuff falls together. I'm like, ooh, this is going to be a book. It's like I'm forcing puzzle pieces together and I
Yeah.
can tell when it doesn't work, but I'll write through it and then I'm looking at it and I'm like, it still doesn't work. And then I'd like adjust the outline or whatever. So maybe it's kind of similar, but maybe you've got it right in not trying to force those pieces.
Yeah, I don't think it's even right or wrong. I think it's about what I think a big mistake I see is I think there's a lot of writers when they're starting out who are trying something that's not organic to them. And that doesn't mean you can't try something that you're not used to and it's hard work and you got to get used to it. But I think you should try totally different methods and just and it's going to take hundreds of thousands of words and you'll finally like, oh, this is how I write best. Oh, this is my voice. Because if I try to outline that's exactly what happens to me. I'm like, I feel like this is getting very forced. I feel like it's beginning getting predictable because I can't think in nuanced terms when I'm outlining or if I'm trying to outline. So it just becomes very generic, thrillery stuff
Mhm.
rather than like, oh, I don't think the character would do this. All of a sudden you have that what if moment halfway through the book. Like, what if he just did this? Like, what does that mean? And those, I mean, and that's where for me where the joy comes from. It's like that those moments of discovery where like, holy shit, what if you just
Yeah.
died? Like, what would happen? Like, I love that stuff. And that doesn't always mean it's the right choice, but it's exciting.
Yeah, like you know when you've done something right. Like when you're writing and it clicks into place. That happened to me the other day and I was like, oh, this is so good. Like, that's just like that one little thing that clicks into place and you're like, that's great.
Totally. And I think it's a matter going back to the subconscious of trusting that. So, and I have all these little weird examples, but like my fifth book was called Mr. Tinder's Girl. It's Mister, Tender, Tender. And I just liked a title with the name Mr. And Mr. Tender is this kind of evil comic book character. And Tender just because I don't know why I just picked that word, right? I just thought it was kind of ironically creepy. And then I started writing, I'm like, oh, maybe he's a bartender. Maybe this comic book character is a bartender. And that's his backstory. So it became that. And then I started realizing I needed some kind of weird anagram.
Wait, don't give any
I'm
spoilers
not
because
giving anything away,
I'm
but
gonna tell
but
you,
I
it's on my bookshelf and I'm bringing it on vacation in 2 days. It's gonna be
okay.
my
This
vacation
doesn't
book.
spoil
So no
anything.
spoilers.
But I I started doing this like I'm like now I wonder what an anagram of his name would be if I put it in an anagram. And it became Mr. Interested. And I'm like, perfectly. And I'm just like, that's so weird. None of this was planned, but I'm like, it actually worked perfectly for him doing what he needed to do under a different name. And I'm like, that's just magic.
Yeah.
Or luck, whatever you want to call it. But I've had a number of instances where things have just like, yeah, it all just came to this inevitable thing that
Mhm.
I didn't plan, but it is a little bit more than luck. But that's only because I'm trusting how I write. If I tried to force it, I never would have figured any of that stuff out.
So, do you experience the phenomenon where you think that this has happened to me, where I'm like, oh, this is genius.
Mhm.
But then, like, when the book comes out, that's not the thing that people
It's never the
hear
thing.
about.
Yeah. It's never the thing. And it's so funny, which is hard because I think what you're describing also then makes the author go back into those layers of self-doubt because you're like, well, I thought this part was great. Not saying that those great parts are then slammed, they're just not acknowledged. Um,
Hmm.
my book before last one, The Father She Went to Find, I look at that book, I'm like, this is some of and personally, I think some of my best writing. Like there's some scenes in there that I'm like, and it's rare that I say this, but I'm like, I love how this is written. And that's one of my favorite characters. And that's one of my least popular books,
Oh, don't
and
you hate that?
yeah, my editor wasn't crazy about it and all for very, very valid reasons. Like
Hmm.
I can look at it kind of fairly objectively and I'm like, I get it, but it's very dear to me. And then tell me what you did takes off. And I think I love the book too. But to me, I'm like, I'm just going to write this angry in your face book. And I wasn't thinking about like the beauty of the language and this and that. And it just takes off. So it's like, you never know.
You just don't. You
It's
don't
never,
know what you're gonna trigger. And I feel like with Tell Me What You Did, there was something so just nostalgic. There was like Halloween movies, and it was such
yeah.
a callback to that for me. And you just never know what's gonna trigger that in people.
Yeah. It's so weird. And which is, I think, why it's the best advice is not to write to the market.
Hmm.
I think it's so important to just write to you like what brings you joy, what is interesting to you, what would you read, rather than like what's popular right now, because it just might not fit who you are as a writer. So when you go and write something, because you you obviously write fairly dark, right? And I think we're similar in the sense of, we like characters who have a traumatic past that maybe was never fully addressed or worked on or healed. Not that it can never necessarily heal, but and then you're in a situation where all of a sudden you're kind of forced through all of that past again by current events. And I
Mhm.
think Whispers of Dead Girls is a great example of that. But when you're writing, are you thinking of like, okay, here's my character now, but I know something. What are their layers? What are their layers that I'm going to eventually show, but it's not shown at the beginning. It's like unpeeled. Like here's the damage as you start pulling things back.
Honestly, I feel like that stuff comes out in the editing process because my first drafts are such bare bones. They're like 60,000 words, honestly.
Okay,
My
but
very
that's
first
great
draft.
because you have a solid structure.
Yeah, but I really do need feedback from like, my agent and the editor, and then like I have people who will read for me. That's when I start figuring things out a little bit more, but definitely like through the editing process. I don't really know them, like the characters, very much on the first draft, which is like a weird thing to say, but I really don't.
No, I totally get that. I get that because like my protagonist now, 70,000 words, I couldn't tell you what he looks like. I haven't described him at all in the book because it's from his perspective, so he's not describing himself. So I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what color his hair is. But it's funny. But on some books, you're like, I get this person, and on other books, you're like, I see this person. I don't know if I have a
Yeah.
deep. I don't know if I have a deep empathy for them because, yeah, I don't know. It's weird. Even after you spend what a year with them, and you're like, and I don't know if that's a bad thing or not. I don't know if like you should absolutely be like 100% seeing them in your sleep, but I'm not like that. It
Me
sounds like you're
either.
not either.
I'm not, and I'll talk to some authors who are, and they're like, yeah, like I know their favorite drink flavor. I know what they would do in this situation. Like they just know everything about the characters, and I'm like, I just know what's on the page.
Right, right, right. But if that works for you, so but I'm interested. So when you get to finally getting your first book published, right? And that first book was Poison Pen also, wasn't it?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Poison Pen is our mutual publisher. It's an imprint of Source Books. Um, you didn't give your agent or your publisher a 60,000 word manuscript, I'm assuming, that time, right? Or was it
No.
so how did you finish that one if you need that feedback?
Okay, that's a good question. Well, okay. So my first book, which was really my fifth book,
Oh, fifth. Okay.
um, it was my fifth, yeah. Uh, it was an interesting situation when I queried it. My agent signed me, but we knew when she signed me that we were going to do a really big overhaul on it. So to sign me, all I had to give her was an outline of these edits that we had both. She gave me this idea and she was like, "What if we did this?" I was like, "Okay." So I did an outline and then she signed me before I had it written. So ever since my first book, really, I've gone into it. And then my agent now, like I'll run ideas past her. She's very editorial with the outlines and stuff. And so like I just have that now, that
Yeah.
this
That's
feedback
great.
cycle.
That's great because
So
not a lot of agents are like. I mean, my agent is also very editorial. She gives me great notes, and I don't know if I ever appreciated that as much until I heard from some peers who are like, "Yeah, my agent doesn't even read it. They're just like send it to the publisher," and I'm like, "What? That's insane." And maybe that's I don't know, but I like you. Like I need that
yeah,
advice because I trust her
same.
so much. So it was your fifth book was your first published book, and your fifth book and your first published book was also your first agented manuscript. So you had
Mhm.
four books that you just kept trying and kept trying and kept trying.
Yeah.
And so, the low hanging fruit kind of question, but it's still fascinating to me because I get it a lot is like, what made you keep going? right? Yeah, and it's kind of more than just, well, I always wanted to be a writer. It's there's something beyond that. And what was it for you?
Oh, I thrive in failure. Like I tell people that.
All
No,
right, that's going to be the
I'm
pull
telling
quote for
you,
this episode, by the way.
I thrive failing. If and I think about this even there's always like everybody's talking about your goalpost move. You get the agent, you get the book deal, then you want to make lists, you want to do all these things. For me, if I don't have those things, that's my motivation. I feel like if I were to get everything I would want, it might take the joy out of it for me. So,
Yeah, I hear you. And there's a level of tenacity I think that most published authors have or have demonstrated in their past of like, you know, there's very common someone will read a book and be like, I can write better than this. Or all the rejections, I'm like, they don't know what they're talking about. Or, I'm determined to see my book on a bookshelf. And then I think there's also the attitude, which I think is a very correct attitude, is like, it's not ready yet. This was
mhm.
these four books that you write, that's your education, that's your college.
Yeah.
And so they prepare you to write that fifth book. And that fifth book never would have happened without those four. And I don't think a lot of people look at it like that. They just look at failure, existential failure, and they don't see it as training. And because even after I got published, it was several books in where I can go back and be like, okay, this is I think where I found my voice. It just takes a lot of writing
Mhm.
to get to a place where you're like, okay, this is who I am. So I mean, that's so funny that you say you thrive in failure. I guess that's healthy.
No, it really is healthy for me because and when I say that, I don't mean like I aspire to fail because that would be silly, but just it just doesn't get me down.
Yeah.
It's just like of course I was bummed anytime I was about to have to shelf a book, but there was always this thought in my mind of like, well, I have this other idea that I'm really excited about, and I just poured all of it into the next thing. And so
Yeah.
that's what I still do.
So what do you do now? Who's your editor again?
Jenna.
Jenna. You're with Jenna. Okay. So when you're working with Jenna, do you say that like, here's a paragraph of what I'm thinking about for the next one? Does this strike you as something that you want? Or because sometimes we don't even know that, depending on if we're just doing one book at a time. So for years and years and years, what I did was like, I just went off and wrote whatever I wanted to write. Nobody knew what I was writing. And then I would just give it to my agent, and then we'd give it to Poison Pen and cross our fingers that they would want it, because you don't know. It's scary.
Yeah, it is. A good question. I actually for Whispers, my second book, I kind of just had the book written because I wrote it whenever I was on sub with When She Was Me, and they
Yeah.
happened to like it. But for yeah, and actually with so my next contract is two books, and with that first book, it was written to, and I just sent it to her, and we were like, "Do you want to buy this for the option or whatever?" But for my second book in this option for the first time, I did send her a pair. There was two paragraphs for two different pitches to ask her her preference on it. And this was the first time I've done that. So we'll see
And
how this
and the
goes.
second book being a standalone.
Yeah, a
Yeah.
standalone.
Yeah. Yeah. And because that's all I've ever written too. And so it's like, I when I signed a 2 book deal and they wanted the second idea, I'm like, so you write, it's funny, like you write like you said, a couple paragraphs. I'm like, what about
Mhm.
this? And and then the non-outliner has to make up something. And then I give her my first 100 pages just to make sure I'm on track. But like, you know, the next 300 pages are going to be wildly different than what I said it was going to be, because I don't know.
Yeah, and same. And I'm always like, I've not been in a position yet where I've had to give 100 pages to somebody. And I hope I'm not. Like for this, even though she commented on the pitch she wanted, I'm still going to give her the full book. But because my first 100 pages are definitely going to change. That's just how I
Oh,
write.
100%. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it just feels weird and like too much pressure to send it before it's completed to anybody.
I think what they're looking for, and it was my idea to do it, because I'm like, I don't want it, because what usually happens with me is that I'm with Anna Michaels, who's a fantastic editor. I've been with her for like 7 or 8 books now, but because I don't share well, as a result of the fact that I don't outline. Um, what happens is this, 3 to 4 months of editing with that first editorial letter. It's like, yeah, but what about a subplot? What about something like,
Mhm.
this feels too X to me, stuff that I just can't see for myself. So it's all great stuff, but it would be nice not to have to do that so much.
Yeah.
So I send her the 100 pages, but I think even knowing those 100 pages are going to probably change a lot. I think they're making sure, are we pulled in?
Yeah.
Are we
And what's the
connecting to
vibe?
character?
Like, what's
What's
the
the
vibe
vibe? Are we
here?
connected to the protagonist? Because, I usually just write
Mhm.
one point of view. So you got to be pulled in by this one point of view, and you never know. And sometimes I alternate between this book is a male point of view, this book is a female point of view, and that could resonate differently with her. And it's scary. So
Mhm.
you just never know. But I've kind of resigned myself to know, like, yeah, every book I do is going to have pretty substantial edits that are smart edits that's going to make it better. But like,
Yeah.
then you have to stop whatever you were working on because I can't write two things at once. And okay, the next 2 to 4 months is going to be rewrites of this. And so it's a whole process. So
Mhm.
what is the next one? Are you three little kids? You've got deadlines now? You've got,
Yeah. Yeah, people used to say things to me like, "You write so fast," but they don't say those things to me anymore because I was talking to my husband the other day, and I was like, "Okay," I was listing all of the things that I'm gonna have to do before like June, book wise,
yeah.
and he was like, "How are you gonna do all that?" And I was like, "Living on a prayer here. I don't know."
Yeah. So what is like, you are not in a unique situation, right? There's a lot of writers out there who have insane life responsibilities concurrent with
Mhm.
their writing. In your case, it's your job and you have deadlines and you have stuff that is due. What is your advice to people like you? For me, I'm writing an hour a day so I can get all that other stuff done, but it's about the consistency. How are you juggling everything right now?
Same. Same as you, an hour to 2 hours a day during nap time and just being very, very consistent. That's literally the key. Is just being consistent.
Do you have time then because, someone like me with kids who are in their 20s, I don't have to worry about those responsibilities. So if I didn't get the writing done in the morning, I can always do it in the afternoon. You have a different life. So do you have hours that are sacrosanct and you're like, no matter what happens, I'm out for these 2 hours?
I wish. I try to do that with nap time. I'll put on a movie for my 2 older ones,
Yeah.
and I'll put the youngest to for a nap. Every now and then, that time gets messed up, but really, it's honestly just whenever.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's like 9 o'clock at night, sometimes it's 5 in the morning.
Yeah.
It just
Yeah.
fluctuates.
So you're at home with the kids and you're just like, all right, I think I got 42 minutes right now if I'm
Yeah.
lucky. And so that's kind of what you're just popping in when you can.
Right, yeah, and my
Yeah.
kids are usually, like, in and out. They're like, "Open this, get me a drink, get me a juice."
Right, right. It's not like
Yeah.
you could just write. But I think that's amazing because I think that's what you have to do. The unpublished writer says life gets in the way. And you're like, this is life. My kids are the number one priority, but right behind it is this writing.
Mhm.
And, somehow I've got to figure it out. And I think underneath all of that has to be this profound love of it, right?
Yeah, and
Why would
I
you do it
think that
otherwise?
yes, and I think that when you don't have an abundance of time, you cherish the time you have more. So that goes with
Mm,
for my kids and for writing because I know I don't have a lot of time. I take it very seriously and I do cherish it and I do love it. It doesn't feel like a job. It doesn't feel like work. It's like I need it as a little reprieve for my three beautiful children. But then the same with them because I know like I'm getting pulled in these two different directions. I cherish the time when I can just focus on them more. And so I think it just helps me to be a better mom and a better writer, which I know sounds kind of crazy when you're
No,
juggling
it's
both.
very well said. And I get the sense from you that even if you were still unpublished at this point, you would still have that attitude. Like it's, and I think that's where struggles kind of come from some of the time is that you have someone like yourself who is just dedicated to the craft and maybe hasn't been published yet, but then the outside world kind of says, "Oh, are you still doing that little hobby thing?" And they
Yeah.
diminish it, and you're like, you don't understand. I'm a professional writer who just hasn't been published yet." And but it's hard because it erodes your own soul a little bit
I
because
know.
you start
Yeah.
looking at it as a hobby and you're like, is this silly? And it becomes poisonous unless you really have a tremendous support system.
Yeah, it's like we've attached a lot of meaning to money and things that make money,
Right.
but so much about life and like some of the most beautiful parts of life, you're not making any money.
Right.
So even like if you're not making money at when you're writing, it doesn't mean you're not a writer.
Right. Right. And evidence of that is you go to this event in Atlanta that we go to together and you have these people showing up to see all of us and then they go to you and get and want your autograph and you're like, all right, I might not be making millions of dollars, but no one's asking an accountant making millions of dollars for their autograph.
Yeah.
There's, and not to say that we need that ego, but you have that direct sense of like, oh, I'm influencing somebody's life. I'm providing entertainment for somebody. And that's fulfilling in a way that money can never speak to, I think. Oh.
The things that us broke writers tell ourselves.
I know. Am I just making shit up at this point?
No,
I don't know.
no, you're really not. You're really not. I do think like, yeah, I think that if you're writing and you're not making money, that tells a lot about you because like you're finding true joy in it and it's fulfilling you in other ways. And that's important. You're not just like, throwing some words on the page
Right.
to get some money.
Right. And I think it's great to also have the objective be, you can be whatever. Like you can write just for the love of writing. And I think that's amazing. If you're writing to be published, I think you should have that attitude that you should keep writing, but you should also be vulnerable enough to like be open to criticism because you have to get better. And I only got better through feedback, and then just the process. But I see people who are like, 10 years in and they're like, when is it going to happen? And it becomes very difficult because I think the market's also gotten tougher too. I feel very
Oh yeah.
fortunate that we're both in the market, at least now.
Yeah.
And I think it's getting more and more, I don't know if competitive is the right word, but there's just a lot of product out there. And
Yeah.
fewer eyes to take a look at it. So it's difficult. But
Hmm.
yeah, you've 2-book deal, like you're entrenched. You're in it.
Yeah, there's no escaping.
And and just kind of on a final note, we're with a great publisher. Um, I was with Sourcebooks before there was a Poison Pen Press, and I have just seen them grow. They were already big, but I've seen them grow into one of the top 5 publishers now. And then really, I remember having the initial conversation with Anna when she was telling me, oh, we want to get into kind of really lean into mystery thriller suspense. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. And now you look at Poison Pen Press and it's massive, man. It's
Yeah, I love it. I'm so glad I got in when I did. Like I feel like I slipped in right before because like you said, things get a lot more competitive, and I feel like they are now, even in our publisher too. But like I feel like I squeezed in the back door just in time. So
yeah, and I think like I never feel like, well, so for example, our publisher also has Frida McFadden, obviously a bit of a name. And I never feel like I'm competing against Frida. What I feel like sometimes I compete for, or not even compete, is what becomes difficult are like PR marketing resources, which
Hmm.
they have totally internally addressed. They're like, let's grow our team. So authors are all getting the support that they need as their books come out. But it's been a fast growth. So there's been obviously some growing pains and things like that. But now they've added people. So it's, it's just trying to keep up with sales volume more than and number of titles that they're putting out.
Yeah, and I feel like they do a really good job of distributing their titles.
Totally.
Just just in general, I literally don't have any complaints. But when I came into publishing, I say this to people, but I don't think they believe me. I had zero expectations. When I say zero, I mean like
Like if one
I was
copy
tell
sells, I'll be happy.
I was telling my family, I was like, I think you guys all need to buy this book because I'm probably going to sell like 17 copies. So I have obviously exceeded my expectations of zero.
Right.
So it's just like anything I get, I'm very excited about because I expect nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. Great attitude to have. Well, Marley, we're going to wrap up. Before we do, we're going to do our own little storytelling. And you've seen this show, so you know what this is about. I have 3 books that I've kind of randomly picked off my bookshelf. You're going to choose one. We're going to pick a random sentence from a random page. I'm going to read that sentence, and that'll be the first sentence in like a 2-minute long short story.
Okay.
We'll just alternate sentences back and forth. So I have Allison Brennan's The Missing Witness, Elise Hart Kipnis's Dangerous Play. These are all thrillers. And The One Who Knows by Lisa Matlin. So choose one of those. And I'm going to shut my door because my cat's howling at me. All right. So pick one of those.
Let's do the middle one.
The
The
middle
second one.
one was Elise Hart Kipnis's Dangerous Play. So give
Yeah.
me a page between 1 and 270.
Let's do 200.
That's so weird. I just opened up the book and it's on page 200.
Oh my goodness, that's
That's
crazy.
really, see, it's all that subconscious stuff I was talking about. So I'm going to quickly scan this. It's a lot of dialogue. Um, all right. So I'm going to read this and you do whatever you want with this. So it's just
Okay.
somebody talking to another person. Um, if that's true, I say, feeling exasperated, why not just tell me?
Okay. If that's true, why not just tell me? Because I can't tell you this secret. This is something that's too big for any of us. Trust me.
He was being coy again, just like he did frequently throughout our entire 20-year marriage. There was always a secret, there was always something left unsaid. But this felt bigger. Who is she? I asked.
He looks down, seems to gather himself, and looks back at me and says, who is who? I don't know who that person is.
It's funny how insecurity worms its way through your gut over the course of a marriage. Eventually, it either dies out and you get over things, or it becomes something that can only rupture. And I feel it in my guts, the rupture beginning. And I look over to the side table where I had placed the scissors.
He doesn't know about my past. He doesn't know what I'm capable of. Slowly, I inch for the scissors. He's not really paying attention because he's too caught up in his own thoughts.
And it hits me in the moment how 2 people together for so long can be complete strangers. I don't know who he is, and he sure as hell doesn't know me, my fears, my intentions. And it could just be in these final moments of our marriage that we'll see each other for the first time. We can just call it there if you want.
I feel like that was the ending right there. Yeah.
Oh, nothing like a good marriage gone sour.
Yeah, that went dark fast.
It usually does. I'm so glad we got a chance to catch up, after talking last year. Am I going to see you this year? Are you going to be at Thriller Fest or
I don't know. Probably not.
yeah,
Maybe. I don't
that whole
know. We'll
kid
see.
thing,
The whole kid
the
thing,
whole
yeah.
responsibilities? Well, I'm excited to, hopefully keep talking to you over time and follow your career and to catch up again sometime soon.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. And thank you for all the work you do in the community.
Oh, my pleasure. Great to talk to you, Marley.
You do.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye. All right, that is it. That is my conversation with Marlee Bush. I hope you enjoyed it. I know I did. And I love the little storytelling at the end because, as she said, it went dark fast. If you want to check out her book, Whispers of Dead Girls, or her other title, or anything you want to know about Marlee, go to her website, marleebush.com. And you can pop on over to carterwilson.com if you want to check out my books and all the other offerings I have on my website. Or you can go to unboundwriter.com if you're interested in any kind of one-on-one private writing coaching or my seminars and retreats. And make sure you check out the information we have about a retreat in Paris next year, as well as the Visible Writer class that I am featuring on May 30th. All right, friends, we're wrapping up. That is it for this episode. Hope you liked it. I know I did. It was a good one. Another one out just next week. In the meantime, as always, take care.